How dangerous are the LSU Tigers? We thought this year would be a rebuild year. In a lot of ways, it still is a rebuild year, but look at the record right now. They're 6-2, folks. Just beat a top 10 Ole Miss team when they came to Death Valley. And I think it's time we start giving a little bit more attention to year one of the Brian Kelly era. The first part of this whole operation, the offense is starting to catch their stride. 45 points in each of their last two games. How long have we sat here up to the last 2 weeks and said, LSU's got so many guys. Kayshon Boutte, he's a dog. Malik Neighbors, he's a dog. Jayden Daniels, we've seen him play really well at times, especially when he was at Arizona State. We know they've got it under the hood. Can they put it together? Can this whole operation get working? Maybe next year. Might be sort of an acclimation phase. Well, it's still an acclimation phase, but you're seeing 45 points each of the last two games. Good things are happening. A big reason why Jayden Daniels has gone from being on the bus to now driving the bus. Like at first it was, hey, we're all in this together, play complementary football. They're still doing that, but now Jayden Daniels has taken the keys, put on his seatbelt securely, and yelled America, put his foot to the gas pedal, full go. If you've watched the other guys, that's the reference there, just so we're all on the same page. But Jayden Daniels, 11 touchdowns, 73% completion percentage the last two games. He's done it with his legs. He's done it with his arm. He's been efficient. And I think on top of all of that, Jayden Daniels getting his own game going has equipped this offense to get other guys involved, get the right guys involved, rather. Because Kayshon Boutte was a name that we talked about a lot in the preseason, a lot that we talked about when things weren't going right. Scrub the social media. There was a lot of buzz. Is he going to hit the transfer portal? What's going to go on there? He's been balling the last few weeks. He's averaged 5 receptions the last 3 games. Would you like to see him get more touches? Sure. I promise you Jayden Daniels feels that way. I promise you Mike Denbrock feels that way. But to see him touch the ball more frequently, at this point in time, you're seeing the dividends. The fact that he's able to touch the ball, impact the game, one, it allows him to have his own say on how things go offensively. 2, when you have to worry about what number 7 is going to do, you have to honor him in your game plan, changes the entire complexion of your defensive approach. Also, Josh Williams, he's running the ball effectively. 75 yards on the ground last week, 100 yards against Florida. The run game has been getting going, and some of that's attributed to what Jayden Daniels has done in the read option game. But let's talk about this offensive line for a second, because you know what we have said about them routinely on this program, on this channel. It's musical chairs every single week. Hey, you all put your names in the hat, draw your name out, and that's where you're playing this week. That's how it has felt, right, for how much turnover there's been on that unit. For the offensive line, continuity cannot be overstated in terms of importance. And to not have had that in spades this year and to play as well as they have the last few weeks, you cannot say enough good things about that unit. Also, to have 2 true freshman tackles in the SEC, to be an offensive lineman and be a freshman is impressive at any level of college football. But to do it in the most difficult division in all of college football, it just says so much about this program, says so much about the kind of development and the kind of coaching they have behind that unit. Because that's what has made this system go. The leaps and bounds they've made is in a large part due to what they've gotten from that offensive line, like I said, unit, meeting room, more or less. I'm J.D. Pickell. This is The Hard Count. Would love to have you along for the ride, so subscribe to the channel. To all the LSU faithful that have joined us lately, we love you. Thank you for jumping on. If you haven't yet, like I said, subscribe. Come join the party. Let's look at the defensive side of things. Matt House, the job he's done there this year, you can't say enough good things about it. And yes, they have a lot of guys, and we'll get to that in a second. But what I look at most closely when I talk about Matt House and the job he's done on that defense, football is a game of adjustments. It's like boxing. Everybody has a plan till they walk into the ring and get punched in the mouth. And credit LSU. They've taken their fair share of punches. It's inevitable. In the game of football, you get hit frequently. It's happened to LSU. But the way that they've adjusted, I think it's the best job in the country that they've done, quite frankly, on defense at least. Because you look at the couple of games they've had, they were down early to Ole Miss. They were down early to Auburn. They were down early to Mississippi State. All 3 of those games, they not only won those games, they turned the water off defensively and gave their offense a chance to get back in it. Because that's been the theme. As good as the offense has been, there have been a fair number of games where they have had to wait on the offense to get clicking and get adjusted on that side. And so for the defense to play as well as they have, I think that's a great sign of things to come. Speaking of things to come, there are big things to come for Harold Perkins. He has introduced himself to LSU fans on a number of occasions. You saw him play on the edge this past weekend against Ole Miss, and he looks right at home. A guy who made noise in fall camp, the guy that they were excited about playing linebacker. They were talking about having him inside originally. Listen, Harold Perkins, that coaching staff knows him better than I do. But when I see a freak show like that coming off the defensive edge, let that man cook, right? Let him do what he does. He's special on the outside. Whether he ends up transitioning back to the middle or stays on the edge, he's going to be a player for you at LSU for a really long time. B.J. Ojulari has lived up to a lot of the conversations around him prior to the year. He's been a force for them. The defense has allowed this thing some time to bake. They have allowed them to stay in some of these games. And in a lot of them, they've been the reason why they ended up winning the game. It's obviously a complimentary sport, but you hear what I'm saying here. The defense has given the offense time to get up to speed, to adjust, and eventually score points. I mean, in the Auburn game, they scored a touchdown themselves. That was the kind of impact they had. And that's the way football works. Obviously, you need all three phases of the game, but I just want to make sure we mention how impressive of a job that defense has done adjusting in game, and then also the personnel they have. Phenomenal. So here's, I think, the biggest thing that I've taken away in year one under Brian Kelly. There's very clear buy-in, and that doesn't always happen in year one. That was the thing that we said actually going into the year. For this year under Brian Kelly, what it is in 2022 is not what it's going to be in the future. You might need to take your lumps, take the good with the bad, with the ugly, and just sort of enjoy this whole process of getting to where you want to go. Because with Brian Kelly, his proven track record, won 81% of his games, you feel pretty good about getting there eventually. But folks, the buy-in so far has been quick. And I think that's impressive because when you have some return on investment for that buy-in, it only exponentially intensifies that buy-in across the board. And this is a program that, let's just call a spade a spade. A season ago, there were some issues internally. I don't want to try and be too specific with what those were, but there was issues. This team doesn't look like they have any issues internally. They've shown heart, they've shown grit, they've shown fight, and they have been resilient. In the first year of a new head coach with previous issues internally, you don't always get that. So I'll say this, LSU under Brian Kelly's first year, they're ahead of schedule. So when it comes to 2022, like we said at the top of this whole thing, you got to start taking the Tigers just a little bit more seriously. The rest of the way, here's what they got. You got to bye. And then you welcome Alabama, Nick Saban and company, to Death Valley. You play at Arkansas. You got UAB. You go to Texas A&M to end the year. LSU has currently one loss in Southeastern Conference play. I'm looking at all these games, and I include Alabama when I say this. They're all winnable. Every single last one of these games is winnable for the reasons we just mentioned. If the offense continues to hum, dare I say, let's say they get better. Let's say Jayden Daniels takes another step as a passer for this program. Kayshon Boutte gets more involved. The offensive line gets more continuity. What could this program be? Now, let me make this clear. We're not picking any of these games right now. I'm not predicting LSU to beat Bama, Arkansas, A&M, UAB, any of that. This is not a prediction. But the fact of the matter remains, with the formula they're playing with right now in Baton Rouge, every single contest that they have in front of them is a winnable game. It's an exciting time right now to be a Tiger fan. We'll leave it at that. Again, I'm JD Pakel. This has been The Hard Count. Nick Brake does the real heavy lifting, but this is the People's College Football Show. So every single thing that you know and that you love about this sport, we do that here. We do it on a daily basis. We have a live show on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 Central, 4 Eastern. Come join us. We have a live chat. We want to incorporate you as much as possible. So come get in here, get active in the chat. We'll have a good time. So until then, we're going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.